Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit, the week ending Friday, May 3rd. This is our 52nd episode. We're going to try to consolidate all the week's news for Rocket Pool into about 30 minutes with a little bit of markets and commentary thrown in. Whack, how's your week been? But I hope you haven't been watching the markets.
Well, it's difficult to not watch the markets with all that sentiment. Like recently, everyone thinks, like the crypto markets are always so funny. Like this is my third bull market I'm in now, having gone through two full bear markets, and people just never believe that the the bull is really here. I guess the first time I got in right at the peak, so then didn't really believe the bear was there. But like in 2020, people were just like, no, this isn't a bull market, it's just faking us out. And now it's the same situation again, but it's like, no, this isn't a bull market, it's just faking us out. And they're like, guys, just be patient, just wait like 6 months to 18 months. Things are going to be really good here. Like just chill. But it's difficult to not get emotional.
Yeah, well, short-term
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
The We're looking at the Ethereum price now, which is about 2,960. I mean, one way to look at it is if we go back to the first of the year, we were at about 2,300. So
mm,
if someone came down January 1st and said, "Hey, May 2nd, we'd be at 2,960," would you be happy?
absolutely.
I'd be like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Right.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Now let's look at RPL. That's
So
another
let's
story.
not.
It's at
Yeah.
1892.
Hmm.
It's been a tough week for RPL,
Yeah.
down 12% for the week. I think Ethereum was down about 5% for the week. So the ratio is not doing so well.
Yeah.
Is there a bottom coming here at some point? What do you think?
I hope so, man. Like, I really hope that Houston, like, is the bottom. Well, this period, like, we're in right now, is the bottom. Like, the Houston stuff is really starting to take shape now. Like, we're starting to see the testnet, coming out. We're getting the audit reports. We're getting Smartnode version 2. So, all that Houston stuff is starting to happen. Um, the the big draw for Houston will be whale marriages potentially happening at the protocol level. Those, if they happen, I'm not saying they're going to happen, but if they happen, we're not going to get any news about those until after Houston. So it might be, a little bit more to go. I really hope they happen. We really need that win as a community. We desperately need more node operator ETH coming online. We need more RETH demand. Hopefully that there's some changes that are happening with that. We're going to talk about that later as well. But it's been tough. Like if you go to that 1 year chart for Rocket Pool, like that chart is horrible. Like it's just
Yeah,
down and to the right, and it's pretty much a straight line down on the ratio with the RPL price in dollars. It kind of, we had that 5 or 6 month period where we were kind of like range bound, but now we've kind of broke down from there as well. So it's not fun. It's not enjoyable, but I'm really hoping that we find a bottom soon, and then get that like momentum and positive catalysts going, like with Houston, Node Set, Saturn 1, Saturn 2, all that kind of stuff. Like if we can get that momentum going, hopefully going into bull market, it might put us in a good position. But right now, like everything is bad, and there's no nice way of saying that. Like sentiment is really
yeah,
low. Prices are obviously bad. People who've been in the community for many years, they're actually down on their investment, against ETH for sure, against US dollar as well now. Like I'm in the red, other people in the community are in the red as well. So it's been tough, but like, this is stuff that we've been through before. And like the main rule number one, like we always say, is like don't blow yourself up and don't
yep,
capitulate, right? And on sentiment, like not on technicals, like that's fine, it's a different matter. But on sentiment, capitulating hasn't tended to work out very well. So there we go.
yeah, yeah. A couple thoughts.
Yeah.
One, what was your prediction for the ratio for 20 back in our New Year's predictions?
I've wiped that from my mind. I'm not
Well,
I'm
we
not
still
thinking about
got
that.
seven
I think
months. We
I
got seven
yeah,
months to go.
I think somewhere around 0.02 like will
Yeah,
be
I think
fine. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at, but I don't know how it's going to work out. Like against ETH
right.
terms, then if ETH is $10,000, that puts us at $200. I think that is fairly reasonable, but well, that's still 10x from where we are right now. So maybe it's not that reasonable. I don't know, but like I've seen crypto moving like really fun ways over the years. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, recently, I got a couple airdrops from like Cosmos type of protocols, and so I've been kind of poking around in their Discord and looking around, and I'm comparing it to Rocket Pool, and I thought, oh, man, the Rocket Pool community is so much more further along and advanced and like serious, and there's a lot, there's a lot going on. Kind of grounded me a little bit, and like, yeah, we got a really good thing going here. There's a lot of great people doing a lot of good work. It's
Yeah.
tough right now, but when you compare it to like other places, it seems to be we've got the price doesn't reflect the passion, the smarts, the future that's coming from Rocket Pool. So I know I'm kind of an optimist, trying to help folks out there. But I had that experience this week. Thought I'd share. So feeling
Yeah.
good about Rocket Pool after been poking around other protocols. So hopefully we'll get to 0.02 by the end of the year, though. I want you to be right.
I think that's just at the peak of the bull market. That's what I was more thinking
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
I'm not sure when that's going to be, whether that's in 2024, but more likely I think in 2025. But then that's when
yep,
the Saturn stuff comes into it as well. Let's see what happens.
yeah. It'll look a lot different. I was thinking a year from now what Rocket Pool will look like,
Different
and
protocol completely. Yeah.
totally, it's like totally new version and
Mm-hmm.
tokenomics. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Houston. We're almost there. We've got just a few weeks. The
Mm-hmm.
first big upgrade since Atlas from a year ago. So Langer's posted in the forum, or not forum, the Discord, that the testnet is now live. So you can play around on Holski. Is it Holski or Holski?
Haleshki.
Holeshki, neither. So you can play around with it. And Langer's is
Yeah.
like, here, try to break it. We're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to test it, give us some feedback. So, you know, those Rocket Pool nerds out there, you want to play around, certainly do so. There is a bounty. I think it's on the next tab here.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. So if the audit reports have been published as well, and if you poke around and you find some little bug, let the team know you might be in for some money. Was it
Mm-hmm.
500,000 for a fatal bug?
Yeah.
To
And then
25?
25 and 5.
Yeah. So 5 for
Yeah.
like a smaller bug,
Mm-hmm.
25 for. I'm simplifying this, but a small bug's 5, medium is 25, a big one's 500,000, right?
I think those are the numbers. It might be
Something like that.
5,000, 50,000, 500,000, but I'm not sure. It's somewhere around that.
Okay.
Like it's 5,000 for the low and 500,000 for the critical. And I'm just forgetting whether the medium is 25,000 or 50,000. I think it's the 25,000 still.
Yeah, and
But
these audit reports, there's 3 firms that the team used. We have Sigma Prime and Consensus Diligence, which they've been doing the audits on Rocket Pool now for years. And
since
the
the
new
beginning.
one, from the beginning. The new one this round was ChainSafe. So there's 3 different sets of eyeballs going through the code. They've Sigma Prime and Consensus are 2 of the top firms in the industry,
Mhm.
and they're very familiar with Rocket Pool. And I guess the thing is, every time we have an upgrade, it's you're kind of restarting the Lindy clock, aren't we?
Mhm.
Because you have new code, and
Well, kind of. Some of
it's
the
kind of a
code,
mesh between old and new.
some of the code will never change. Like some of the RE stuff is an immutable contract, so that will
Mm.
never change. But then some of the other stuff, obviously, like that gets reset. So with this one, there's new stake ETH on behalf. There's obviously the new voting system, on-chain governance system that we're going to have. So those kind of things, obviously, their Lindy will be 0, but the protocol as a whole, like I think, will mostly keep going the way it has been. Like for the average user, it's going to make no difference mostly.
So the stake on behalf, that's the feature, correct me if I'm wrong, that allow marriages at the protocol level, right? Where if
Yeah.
I have RPL and you have ETH, we can easily get together and make a marriage without kind of going outside the protocol. Is that right?
Yeah, so we already have stake RPL on behalf. already that's already running. But with the next step, then we'll have the stake ETH on behalf as well. So a third party can run a validator, and then the first and second parties can provide the ETH and RPL with the assurance that the third party will have no control over that, and then that will, every party can do it in like a trust minimized way. The main thing is that, the third party could technically grief the first and second parties by not withdrawing their stake when they're asked to, or stuff like that, basically behaving badly. But most of the time that's quite a minimal aspect, and the third party tends to actually be one of the first two parties anyway, instead of there being like a separate third party. Like it tends to be the person who's bringing the ETH or the RPL later will actually just become the node operator as well. Currently, the marriage contracts that we have, like the community has created, it tends to be the person bringing the ETH is the one who is the node operator, because it's a little bit more secure for that person. But going forward, it'll actually be a little bit easier there as well. So that, as in that will be reduced. So that's the idea of like the whale, like potentially there being, whale marriages that will happen because of this happening at the protocol level, not at the the user level or individual level like it currently is.
So that feature is attractive for those who might have a whole pile of ETH sitting around, but they don't want RPL exposure. And it's attractive to those with a lot of RPL. Some of our like original big whales have got tens of thousands or more of RPL. That's attractive to them because they can match up and get maybe yield on their RPL, right?
Yep, it's about 10% at the moment, which is nice, except that it's a devaluing token. But other than that, 10% gain returns are actually really nice on RPL, so that works nicely. Yeah.
The other thing, and so this week has been good for the Houston. We got the audit reports, we got the testnet, and then Joe has come out with the version 2 of the Smartnode. So if you're running a node, Joe's been working on this for months. And this will be a kind of a complete replacement of the original Smartnode, which is like command line based. And this provides an opportunity to have a web-based type of system that run your node. And he's really excited about it. And it's now out there for folks to test out. Is that right?
Yeah, so you can test it on Haleshki now. You can't use it on mainnet yet because of the way it communicates with the contracts. It needs to have Houston activated before you can use the Smartnode version 2. But this is, like you said, it's going to change the API, the way the API works. So now it's going to be able to build HTTP hooks on top of it. So you'll be able to build a web interface, basically a graphical user interface on top of the Smartnode stack. So the very first Smartnode stack was simply command line only. Then that was iterated upon at Redstone, where we got the terminal user interface, like the TUI, which is a Smartnode config, part of the stack. And now some of those things will stay the same for like the average user, like the way that you manage your node through the Smartnode stack will be pretty much the same. However, I think there'll be like a bounty or some kind of grant that will go out to a community member to build a web interface on top of the Smartnode stack, which will just make it so much easier for a lot of people. So this won't be coming with that out of the box, but that is something that it will allow to be built next, basically. So it's a really, really exciting system. It's going to be faster. It's going to have some nice quality of life improvements for the users. And then there's a lot of back-end stuff that is going to make things like much more efficient and much better to work with.
Is it kind of, so I know DAppNode, isn't it DAppNode that does like a web-based interface for their people run solo boxes? So this would be on par with DAppNode in the sense that you have a kind of a web-based interface. Is that right?
Yeah, eventually, yeah. So right now we won't have that. Someone will have to make it, and it's likely the GMC will pay for that, the Grants Management Committee, because there's something that a lot of people want. So the way it will work is, you get a node, you install Linux on it, and then in Linux you install the package, and then on the package you install the graphical user interface, and then whenever you interact with the Rocket Pool node, it will just be through the graphical user interface from that point onwards. You might have to use one command to launch the user interface, but after that it'll be there forever. So it's really exciting that we'll have this. It's going to make interacting with your node much easier for the vast majority of our users.
Yeah, knock on wood. I haven't had to interact with my node in a while. The thing's just kind of running.
Hey, did you not
Now,
upgrade to 1.13.0 last week?
yeah, I'm gonna do that next couple of days. I was hoping
Okay.
that because I'm running Nethermind, and
Yeah.
Nethermind isn't in this release yet, and because you know
Mm.
how it works. Fornax will put out a new version, and then the next day, a couple clients upgrade.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I wish Nethermind would be included, but we'll
Yeah.
do that. We'll do that soon for sure.
Yeah.
Um, On to our next news item. So Ken, he's been doing a lot of work on a project called Heroglyphs, and we'll talk about this for a couple minutes. This, my understanding is, when you're running a node, there's a line called graffiti, which allows for a little bit of data, and there's a project that would utilize that data. I think my understanding is that what the hieroglyphs would do is if solo stakers are included on the hieroglyphs, that's an easy way for us to identify solo stakers, and then that would create a very usable list potentially for airdrops for teams down the road who want, like, how do we give it to solo stakers? Who are they? And this would be an easy way to identify them. Is that about right?
Kind of. So there's a few different discussions that are happening like separately, and they're kind of coming together. So we have, this idea of like who is a solo staker on the network. That's actually really difficult to figure out because it's like what variables do you want to actually use? And I think the idea now, if you follow some of these links, you'll eventually get to a post by Nixo, our ETH staker, and she actually puts forward this idea of something called an independent staker instead of a solo staker. So this would be a person who has control over their node. They can choose what clients they want to use, what software they want to use. They can do updates whenever they want. So a few different people fall into that bucket, right? Like rocket pool users all fall into that bucket, and solo stakers, the people who are running their software from home, they fall into that bucket. But you could be a solo staker technically with 32 ETH. You can send that to all nodes, and they could stake on your behalf, and you won't have access to all that stuff necessarily. So those are the kind of things that there's like really nuanced delineations that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now hieroglyphs are coming in here saying like what we want to do is incentivize more solo stakers. So we have this criteria saying that if you are a solo staker, you can opt into hieroglyphs. So whenever you make a proposal on your graffiti, you will put certain code, and that will make you eligible for meme coins. So they're trying to like memify solo staking, saying that you'll get the airdrops because you'll be on the list for solo stakers. So like Omni or like other ones like Altlayer, I think, or others that gave it to solo stakers as a criteria,
Mm-hmm.
or home operators as a criteria. So that will get better. But also then the benefit for those people is that they'll get access to meme coins as well. Like whether they'll be worth anything or not, like that's besides the point. It's just a way of trying to get more solo stakers on the network. So the thing that Ken is actually trying to do here, the activism that he's leading, is trying to get rocket pool node operators recognized by the Hieroglyph protocol, saying that you should include rocket pool node operators in this because we match all these criteria of like a home staker, and this is what we
Mm-hmm.
want. In fact, rocket pool goes even beyond the traditional idea of a solo staker to decentralized network, because you get all the benefits of the solo staker, but because the bond is lower, you get more of those people available. So
Right.
I left a message. I've followed Ken's instructions here, and I went and I left a message saying, hey, like the categories that Nixo says are better, like independent stakers should be the criteria instead of the solo stakers, and this is how we should do it basically. And that is hopefully, like, they're still trying to figure it out, but the goal is that eventually like it'll lead to meme coins and better
Yeah.
understanding of who's on the network and who's not on the network. So
Yeah.
it's a nice idea, and
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah. Kudos to Ken for really digging in and representing Rocket Pool. We do decentralize the network better than anybody. And
Mhm.
even, if you're a solo staker, say you're just a vanilla solo staker, but you're running it off like an AWS server, are you really decentralizing in that sense?
Exactly.
So there's so many nuances to
Hmm.
what a home staker is.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, this is what they're trying to work through and decide. And hopefully Rocket Pool will be lumped in with those, independent operators so that we could be included in some of this. And it might be financially, it might be a windfall for us as well, right?
Yeah, I think better identification of airdrops is definitely something that we need, because it seems like every airdrop recently that has, airdrop to solo stakers has made some mistakes, and then
Yeah,
people get upset and like no one wants that. And then of course better than as well, alongside that as well, there's access to memes and meme coins and stuff
right.
is a little
Yeah,
bonus.
and
So
Rated Network, which is they had compiled a list, and some of the teams have been using. They've publicly said that, I think Val, if I recall, it was a Discord interaction. They have no intention of updating or maintaining the list. It's not in their business model. They've got other things there. It's outside their core business. They kind of just did
yeah.
that as a one-time thing, and so you have it's not reliable. It's there's holes in it. It's not going to be up to date. So this would be maybe a way to step in and have a more reliable list for teams.
Yeah, and then on top of that as well, there's like other lists by someone called GLC. That one I
Yep.
think is the one that each staker is saying is the better list right now. So that I think maybe we can get more protocols like using that list instead. And yeah, I think
Definitely.
we'll figure it out. Like I think it'll be difficult. It's not going to ever be perfect, but hopefully we'll get closer to it than we are right now.
Sure.
Hmm.
Okay. There's a vote currently going right now. Our PIP 41 committee stipends. It is just over quorum. 7,500 votes. The 7,200 was required. Currently, we're at about 83% for, and this would create an hourly stipend rate for all the committees. It would be set at $30 an hour. And I know you're on the committee, GMC, so
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of work that's been done over the last like year and a half on the committees, and it's all volunteer. And sometimes it's been difficult, my understanding in the past, to try to get people to join the committees because it's all work and no pay. And this would try to incentivize that a little bit. Um, I know that. Do you have any? I know you're on the committee, so maybe you can't comment, but I think that overall this is a good thing. It's not a lot. I mean, $30 an hour. It's decent. Maybe a little sweet spot there between paying you nothing and paying you too much. How many hours a week do you like to say the GMC spend? Not a week, per month on committee tasks.
We different people spend different amounts. Like last year, I'm not trying to say this to criticize any previous GMC members. Like most people did their work when they were supposed to do it, but there was clear distinctions between people who were like really active in the GMC and those who were just like doing the GMC duties. If that makes sense, I think I'm trying to like explain that delineation there. I think that's the same with IMC as well. There's like different people who lift the loads in different ways. And that I think was
Mhm.
more obvious with the GMC last year than it is this year. Now, the consequence of that is like the idea is like like does everyone just get the same amount even though like person A is doing like twice or three times the work that person B is doing? I think there's no good solution to that. And sadly, like that's just the reality of the situation. But what's going to happen
Mhm.
here is I think the stipends will go to the committees, and either they can just distribute it equitably and everyone will get the same amount, or they will try to figure out like who did more or less that month. The GMC this cycle has been absolutely amazing, and I feel like everyone is like lifting an equal share of weight, or more equal than it was last year. There still are people who are involved more and others who are involved less, but everyone's doing their work on time. No one's missed any deadlines. Like it's really great. And I feel like this is just a nice little thank you to those people who've literally like all work and no pay, right? Like that's how it's a
Right.
voluntary basis. And at certain times it's been tough because the GMC especially is under the eyes of the whole community. People get upset, people get angry, people don't like the decisions we make. So it's not just that, we work, but there's also this level of criticism that comes with it, which means that people didn't want to join the GMC, right? Like in the last
Right.
election we had, there were 9 spots, and I think we had 11 nominees or 10, maybe even 10 nominees for 9 spots. And that's not ideal. Like, ideally, you would have like 20, maybe even 25 people volunteering for 9 spots. So you can really like choose people based on their merits. And that was really difficult this time because, you just like the you just had to pick people. You know what I mean? Like we needed 9 people. There was no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
So it was quite difficult. And I think the same issue might happen with the IMC. Well, thankfully, if this, it looks like the stipend is passed pretty much, but that might make it better. But the IMC election's coming up, I think, in the next couple of months, and I think they would have had a tough time attracting people as well. I've been saying for the last like 5 or 6 months that I want to run for the IMC as well, because obviously I don't have enough rocket pool in my life. But now I don't want people to think that I'm doing it just to get this stipend. But I've been talking about it for a long time that I would like to run for the IMC as well. But yeah, the stipend's nice. It's not gonna like make it or break it for anyone, but I think it might just be like that little bit, to make it a little bit more favorable for people to get nominated at least, if not to run.
Is it paid in USD or is it RPL?
It's so actually a little bit of alpha from the GMC. We're actually going to change the way the payments are going to be set up. And it looks like we're still having some internal discussions about this, but there have been some people unhappy with like how price fluctuations have kind of screwed people out of their rewards, and that's fair, completely fair, right? And the GMC is working on fixing this, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, like it won't matter really whether you get paid in RPL or LUSD, like it'll be the same. Like there won't be this discrepancy in amounts between awards day and the money that you actually get. But that is insider information. Don't tell anyone that I told you that.
Breaking news here on the Weekly Orbit. Well,
It's still a work in progress. Yeah, it's still a work in progress, but you'll hear about it soon enough.
Sure. Okay. Just a quick touch on tokenomics. Last week, Samus wrote this up in the Discord, kind of rough order of next steps. We got first draft of full proposal, and then get some nerd eyes to review it, work on top level explanations of the full proposal, and then do some forum checks, snapshot votes. And so we got some steps ahead. It looks, my understanding is they did a first draft of proposals last weekend. And so now we're on to step 2. I think we're going to get more people, reviewing that proposed draft. There's a lot going into this. As we've talked about, we got universal variable commissions. You got RPL capture, value capture. You've got bond reductions. There's a lot to go. And I think what a lot of the community members working on this want to make it so, let's make it so it's digestible to the masses. And then as you get the high level, you can then, if you want to get more detail, you can go into that. So kind of working on that so that when it comes to vote time, people have a full understanding what will be happening. Do you have any thoughts on tokenomics and where we're at?
No, it's like this, I think, sounds logical and it's sensible. And like the nerd eyes are reviewing it now. I don't think there's all that much to review because we've all like really been talking about it for months and months. It's just now we've got the cohesive plan. There still are small outstanding questions that need to be addressed. So that might be something that we need to figure out. It might even be that, we go to a vote to get those figured out because we just don't know where we stand on that at the moment. But that's just some ideas. Like we'll get there very soon.
Yeah.
And then after that, then it's just like pretty much the usual steps to getting everything done, which is, on the forum, temper check, like sentiment check. After that, the RPIP is finalized, and then it goes to vote, and then that's it. Like, yeah, it's gonna be really exciting few months ahead. I think basically in June or July, we should have a plan locked down. It should all be done. So, we're on May 2nd now. That's like within, I think 6 to 10 weeks, we should be pretty good.
Yeah. And if you think we started this about in December-ish, well, we started
November,
talking
yeah.
about November, December.
Well, no,
we had
we
the
started
bounties
talking
go
about
up.
it 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. Well, in earnest, I should say.
Yeah.
But think about if it takes about 6 months to go from everyone throwing ideas against the wall, see what sticks, to getting, the team to start, doing the specs. I guess that's a reasonable amount of time, right? 6 months
Yeah,
to go through
it's
all
it's
that.
it's really
And
great.
this is
Yeah.
kind of just a whole rework of everything.
Mhm.
I think the one big item that's we're kind of waiting on is the team reached out to some legal experts on what they think in terms of RPL capture, value capture would be on the spectrum of acceptable to, well, we better not do that because that might get in trouble with the SEC type of stuff. So I think we're waiting to hear feedback on the legal end of that, so that they can come back with that information and we can decide where do we want to be on the spectrum in terms of legal risk.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of an update about that yesterday in the community call. So Langers was asked this by Jasper, and Langers said that their legal team that they like working with is the one from Consensus, and they've had a long-standing relationship with Consensus. Of course, they're ODA members. They've done the
Yep.
audits, like everything. Like they're a
And they're
long-term
suing
partner for
the
Rocket Pool.
SEC right now.
Exactly. So that is actually acting as a bottleneck, right? Because they are suing the SEC. So getting in contact with those lawyers has been tough because they're busy.
Yeah.
So that's acted as a little bit of a roadblock. But they've got a couple of other names that they want to work with. They actually mentioned that Langer said that they've worked with Coinbase as well, of course, for a long time, and they had various like bodies of Coinbase bodies, but they're also suing the SEC, like in
That's
like
right.
a
They
trial
have
with
their own
SEC.
lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I think they're just trying to figure out like what the best way forward is and like who the best people to talk are, who actually have time to talk. But it looks like that shouldn't be too big an issue. That it should be resolved hopefully within the next few weeks, and we can carry on with all this other stuff with that space blank until we get that information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. The big news outside of Rocket Pool was Eigenlayer finally did well um, their well-weighted token drop. Okay, the Eigen token went to those who've been accumulating points, depositing. Like I put in a little RETH and got a little bit of airdrop myself. There was a mixed reviews of it, as of with every airdrop. You got some people happy, some people are not. One thing that was different, though, it seems that Eigenlayers kind of changed their. I don't know if you call it tokenomics, but
Their whole protocol.
correct me if I'm wrong. But originally, it was okay. Stake your ETH, and then you'll get your yield on the ETH, and plus you'll get a little extra something for the I guess the AVS.
AVSs.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
now they're saying, well, no, you're going to stake the Eigen token. And now it sounds like just about every other protocol where, like, hey, you get your token, now stake it with us and you get something. That didn't really go well with some of our mega brains. There was a discussion that you were part of talking about the changes, and there's been a lot of skepticism. There's been some skepticism from folks like Valdorf and Nashua about the whole business model for Eigenlayer. And so, do you have any thoughts on it? My feeling is the little part of my brain says, geez, when there's this much hype, there's going to be disappointment, because it just, they've got like $16 billion or something tied up, and they have basically they don't really have any income coming in. And, how can you justify a token price of this without that? Anyways, do you have any thoughts?
I think there was a lot of hype, like you said, and the token drop, I think, in some ways kind of deflected the attention away from the changes that Eigenlayer protocol is doing. I still honestly need to fully understand what's happening, and I think a lot of people are in that same position. And I've gotten some conflicting information about how it's all going to work. I think what's going to happen is there's two parts of the protocol for Eigenlayer now. One is going to be called objective faults, and one is going to be called intersubjective faults. And how those are kind of collateralized and how those are going to work. The intersubjective faults will be collateralized by the Eigen token. And I think, but I'm not 100% sure, the objective faults will still be using ETH as their collateral, or like restaked ETH. But then the same question as before arises, right? It's like there's no inherent reason why it has to be ETH. So much so that or restaked ETH even, so much so that like Eigenlayer competitors that are launching that like Karak, for example,
Yeah.
are going to let you lose any token instead of like ETH based tokens. So that idea of this being like extremely Ethereum aligned and like having those values, I think that's kind of like put a chink in the armor of that perspective. People are still trying to figure it out, and I think the discussions around the airdrop itself have kind of taken attention away from the changes to the protocol part of it. Like I said, even I'm not fully up to date with all the stuff, and I've read a few things about it, and I still don't fully understand it. But
Yeah.
I need to spend a little bit more time kind of like engaging with ideas. But I know that people aren't happy, and that sentiment is quite big. But yeah.
Speaking of Carrick, did you see? I saw a pie chart the other day where you can use any token, right, to restake, and like I might be maybe it's 2/3 or 3/4 of the tokens restaked in Carrick are LRTs. So it's almost like, you're staking, then you're restaking, and then you're restaking the restaking, and you used to kind of worry about that house of cards someday, collapsing if the foundation comes out of it, right?
We already got a scare with this last week with Easy ETH. I don't know if we mentioned
Yeah.
it on the weekly orbit or not, but it depegged from $3,000 ETH at the time down to $680 on the wick. So that
Wow.
was like a wicked like depeg, and I think it's either fully back to where it's supposed to be or almost fully back to where it's supposed to be now. But that was horrendous, and like as you add layers and layers of risk, like it just needs one piece to fall out of line for everything to collapse. So there's 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 people are taking risks because the money that you can make along the way is astronomical, like literally in the billions of dollars. So
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, like let's get those billions and then we can worry about it later. But it's egregious, right? Because they're putting real people's money at risk here. So yeah.
Yeah, and that could have ripple effects, right? That, as we saw the last crash back in 2022,
Yeah.
and it just could reverberate through the whole system.
Yeah.
Do you have a win this week you want to share?
Yeah. So my win this week is um actually you go first and then I'll go.
So my win is, with the whole, this is like, I feel like we're right at the beginning or right in the middle of the airdrop season, and the teams that drop in airdrops are becoming increasingly worried about regulatory issues. And you saw it with like Eigenlayer. It's geofenced. You can't even use a VPN most cases. Um, they're tying up the token. It's not transferable right away. And I think that's probably the trend we're going down. And it kind of makes you, as an American, as a US citizen, it kind of feels like, oh, this sucks. But the win is being part of the Rocket Pool community. There's some really smart people who you know, figure out technical solutions to get around this stuff. And if you haven't already, you should participate in the airdrop channel on the Rocket Pool Discord because, for example, on the Omni airdrop, we had a couple members show you how you can interact directly with the smart contract. And so, because it's the front end that we use on the web interface that most people will use to try to check their allocation or claim, and that's the stuff that's being blocked. However, the smart contract is just running out on the internet that you can interact directly with and get around. And so, I, as not a technical person, I have no idea how to do that. However, we've got the win this week is we've got some really just great people who have contributed to the Discord and helped us out along the way. And they're going to be very helpful going forward because I think it's going to be increasingly hard for especially Americans to claim some of these rewards. Halulu, is that how you say it? Halulu, what's his name?
Halululo. Halululo.
I can't even say it.
Yeah.
Can we just give him a nickname or he or
Yeah.
she?
Halu. Yeah.
So
Halu's fine. Yeah.
Halu. Okay, so
Yeah.
Halu I know is one of those people. So hats off to Halu for helping us all out. So that's my win. Another attribute of the Rocket Pool community.
Yeah. My win, I think, this week is I've been spending a lot more time like in Ethereum news this week because
Yep.
I'm covering more Ethereum news on my show. And one of the things that I'm seeing is like people are starting to fight back against the SEC, and that's really great. Like I was listening to Bankless earlier with Joe Lubin, who's the co-founder of Ethereum, head of Consensus, and they're like, we're going to fight these guys. Like this is what we're doing. So I think the crypto community is like kind of growing teeth, and we're not scared now, I think, to use them. So we're coming for SEC, like Coinbase, Kraken, and Uniswap, Consensus. Like all of these guys are going to take it to them, and I think it's going to be really good for crypto that this is happening. We're not just going to take it anymore. Like we're going to
No,
challenge them with that. So that's a great win, I
they've
think,
got
for
like Consensus and Joe Lubin. They have so much money too.
so much money, so
Like
obscene amounts of money. Like I think I've heard
just
yeah.
crazy. I mean, a crazy amount of money. But not only that, like MetaMask, that the swap feature within MetaMask is it's just a money printer. They make so
Mhm.
much money just from swaps
Yep.
through the wallet. It's insane. And then plus Joe Lubin's got like hundreds of thousands of ETH. I mean,
Millions, millions. He's the number one
millions
holder
of
of
ETH.
ETH. Yeah, millions of
Oh my
ETH. Yeah,
gosh. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the SEC's they're in for a hard fight with
yep.
these guys. Yeah, they're serious.
Absolutely.
And I like the fact that Consensus, they took it. I think that what they got on Wells notice, and immediately the Consensus sued the SEC preemptively. So I
Yeah,
like that. It shows a very aggressive stance.
that's what I'm. And they're going to win. Like they're of the firm belief that the the law is on their side and the SEC is
Mhm.
acting egregiously, and I obviously agree
Yeah.
with them, and I'm really excited to see how they play this. I think it's going to be great, and they're actually bringing the lawsuit in Texas as well. So I think that there's a chance that because it's a red state, it's a little bit more likely to side with the entrepreneurs and businesses instead of the government. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes forward, because there's other trials that are taking place in New York and California, and all of these different jurisdictions have different flavors and how they work. But then once it gets to the appeal courts and Supreme Court, that's where it's going to get really interesting. And I've been thinking about this. I think some of these cases might go to the Supreme Court, and the fact that the Supreme Court is like more Republican right now than it is Democrat. They've shown in some of their rulings about like anti-government agency like rulings that they've had, like with the Chevron case and stuff. I think
Mhm.
they might rule against the SEC, so this is not going to be a short battle. This is going to take many years, but the fact that we're fighting, I think, is really interesting. The thing that I don't like, is that this is along political lines, and I really wish it wasn't, because I don't think it's a political issue, but it's being made into a political issue. So that's something that I don't like. But the fact that we're fighting, I think, is a huge win.
Right. Well, even
Yeah.
the Ripple case. I think that was in the New York Southern District of New York, I think,
Yep.
which is right in New York City, and
Yep.
they couldn't even prove that Ripple was a security on that in a
On the
blue
secondary
state.
market.
So
Yeah.
I think SEC is just way out of line. I mean,
hmm
they just don't seem to be being good faith actors here at all, and
Yeah.
it won't go on forever. We're gonna outlast them. These people now they're suing people with really big deep pockets. I don't think it's going to end well for SEC.
Yeah.
This is not a way to it's not a way to administer the rules. You're there to protect investors, encourage investment, and encourage entrepreneurs. There's a balance, but this is just the regulation by enforcement. It's not a good way. That's my
No.
opinion, and I think they're going to
Yep.
lose. They've been losing, and they're going to continue losing.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So that's a nice note to end it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That wraps up our show. Thanks for joining us and being part of the Rocket Pool community. Like and subscribe. Just a show note, we're going to take next week off for there'll be the second week in May. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another show. Hopefully we'll have some good market news compared to what we've had the last month or so. So until
Yep.
then, take care. See you, Whack.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.